How about now? Do we have sound now? I don't know why. I don't know why it keeps disconnecting. I didn't do anything with my setup, and I'm pointing over here. My mic is here. I didn't do anything with my setup, and from time to time, things get a little squirrely. I should have checked that beforehand. I'm glad it's working now. Thank you, Sadiq. Thank you, Kenya, for sending a note in there that's saying, you can't hear me. So what I was saying is, first of all, welcome to the studio where we're painting the Loch Ness Monster. And growing up for me, this was the cryptid that I wanted to find. This was it. I could watch it on TV, on National Geographic shows, or in search of anything like that that would have a little bit of information about the Loch Ness Monster. You can get a glimpse into how people were hunting for the monster and where they were hunting for it. I don't mean where. I know it's in Scotland, but in what part of the lake or in what depth of the water. So to me, this was the greatest cryptid of all time. Since I've grown up, maybe I like Bigfoot a little bit more, but definitely Nessie is up there. So I wanted to make sure we got Nessie in here. That's the image I found online. I did a drawing of it, changed it a little bit here and there. The neck is totally different. The head is different. The fins are a little bit different. So let's see. Let me step back for a moment. The paper that I'm using is Fabriano Studio watercolor paper. The paints that I've got over here on my right-hand side are my M-Gram paints, and once again, I'm using because they're fantastic for the way I paint. My King Art brushes. There you go. Look at that, King Art. You're welcome, King Art. These are the 90-20 series pointed rounds. Look, I've been using this for 4 years now, and that point is still nice and round. Wait, that point is still nice and round. That round, the brush, is still nice and pointy. That's the better way to say it. Okay. Now, having said that, I've gotten through all of that stuff. I hope everybody's having a fantastic week. I'm going to jump right in. Now, when I think of the Loch Ness Monster, this one is kind of a iridescent blue color. Not what I think of at all. I think white on the bottom. I'm going to represent that with some really light gray. Maybe some ultramarine thrown in there. And then the back is like a dark gray color. For me, that's how I'm going to do it. To me, that starts with a layer of Payne's gray. I had to think what it was for a second. Maybe I'll get myself some of those brushes as a Christmas present. Okay, good call. Well, like I said, for me they work because, one, it's a nice bristle and the water comes off very smoothly. It holds a fair amount of water. Other brushes hold more water than this, quite frankly, but it holds a fair amount of water. But I like the consistency of it, and I like that it comes to that nice sharp point, and it has for a long time. I haven't found very many synthetic brushes that I like that hold that sharp point for too long. Most of them will come to a point when you buy them and then it'll wear down fairly quickly, or it will start to develop a hook, and I don't like the hook. So while I'm doing this, and this is very light layer of Payne's gray here. It's going to represent the white on the underside of the body of Nessie here. While I'm doing this, I'm thinking about, just to let you in, behind the curtain a little bit, so you know what I'm doing every step of the way. I want you to know. Nothing special about it, is that I'm trying to think not specifically about the coloring or the shading of the animal, but I'm trying to figure what I want to do on the background. So you all know me. If I do something dark on my subject matter, I want something lighter everywhere else. Okay, cool. What does that mean in terms of the background? If Nessie's belly, I put belly up here, I mean belly down here. If Nessie's stomach is going to be lighter, does that mean I put a darker color around Nessie underneath and the top will be darker? Does that mean a lighter color up there? I don't know. I'm going to try to play it by ear a little bit and see how it goes as we go along. Hopefully the answer to that is going to present itself pretty quickly and we won't have a really tough decision to make. It'll just show us. So our Fabriano paper that we're using here, this is Fabriano Studio paper. You guys have seen me use this before, and it's a nice studio paper. It's not the best paper in the world. It's not, St. Cuthbert's Mill. It's not Arches. It's not even Bao Hong. It is a 25% cotton watercolor paper, which means it is 75% pulp, wood pulp, and that's okay. I'm not so much of a paper snob. I'm more of a brush snob than anything, but I'm not so much of a paper snob that I can't use pulp paper. I prefer not to all of the time, but I do have to adjust my, I'm trying to think what I was trying to say. I have to adjust my painting style a little bit to match the paper when it's pulp paper. You just have to realize that there are certain limitations to it. Certain things you can do, certain things you cannot do with pulp that you can do with all cotton paper, right? The pulp paper, the wood pulp paper, it'll tend to do this a little bit more. You can see in going back to my palette and getting more paint and more water, I've gone in a little less than optimal ratio, and I got a little back run right there. Look at that. That came up pretty quickly. So you're going to get those more often, a little bit more often with pulp paper, with wood pulp paper. That's okay. And the other thing you get is kind of an inconsistent drying time with wood pulp paper. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to worry about that for the moment because that might add a little bit of interest for us, right? That might help us out and give us a cool feature. Just like this is drying the same way back here. Might end up working out for us. So we've got a few more people in here in the stream. If you're new here, say hi. Well, actually, even if you're not new here, say hi. Would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, throw them out there. Just getting a drink of water or a drink of, what am I drinking? Basil jalapeno lemonade. That's interesting. Yep. Let's see. Where was I at? Ask questions. Part of the reason I do these live streams is because I enjoy the interaction and I like answering questions and talking about watercolors as I paint. If I didn't do it in front of you all, I'd probably be talking to myself as I do this, and that really is not a lot of fun. I can talk to myself anytime. That's not so much fun. Okay, so some of the things we have to think about going forward. Let me get my, well, I guess I can point with this. The neck on Nessie here. I've got to do a couple of things. I've got to make sure that the bend in here looks natural and that you can tell the bottom of this side from the top of this side. Where they come together, the neck comes and bends up. Right? We've got this natural, it's almost a fold. It looks like it could be a fold. Right here, we've got to watch out for that. The same thing on the top side where it folds down around. The dark on the top of Nessie here has to kind of wrap around a little bit to make sure it give the illusion of having it go bend around and go backwards a little bit. Then we've got the interesting task of making this flipper and this flipper really stand out. We've got to make sure that they come off of that body so that everybody can see that this flipper is in the water. And I should say, I chose this image, that one up there, because I liked the forced perspective. I liked the fact that Nessie's hind end back there is pushed way back and looks a lot smaller, and his head is way closer and looks a lot bigger. So we've got to do something with that too to exaggerate the fact that this head is I don't know, 30 feet closer to us than his tail back here. So we're going to have to do that somehow. But I think we can do it. I'm just waiting for this to dry. I will also say that drying times are going to vary quite a bit. And it's going to vary a lot here right now, especially with this paper, because it rained buckets here yesterday and it's still quite damp. We haven't had a decent rain in 7 months here, I'm going to say. Maybe 8 months. And on Monday night, Tuesday morning, we got 2 inches of rain. And it's stayed pretty humid around here. And so we're dealing with the aftermath of that. All right, so I'm going to put some gray up here. And I'm going to mix that in with our own gray that we're going to make. I'm going to try a little sepia and a little ultramarine. I'm using the Payne's Gray to just help supplement, but we can make this gray, the gray that we're going to mix up here, look like anything we want. So we can make it cooler, we can make it warmer. I just want to, well, first of all, I want to see if we can do this. We can make it anything we want to. I'm going to do something about like this. Give me a little color here, and I'm going to drag that out. And I'm going to try to, you've seen me, I hope you've seen me, I hope you've noticed it, I hope I've mentioned it throughout the weeks and months. I'm hoping to add this on in many, many layers, right? Let's do lots of light layers, and let's make sure we get this looking exactly like we want to. If we put it all on one layer, there's a chance we don't put that layer down right, and maybe it doesn't come out exactly how we want. We do it in a lot of little layers. We can make it look just about like anything we want to. JC is here. Hello. You love the reference, kind of a steel teal color. It is. I'm not going to strictly stick to that color, but I do like the image. You know what, JC? It's a great thing. You just reminded me. Let's we can do something while I'm waiting for this to dry a little bit. Already I can see I've got more dampness on here than I really want. Let's open that reference up. I think you can see it a little bit bigger there. There you go. It looks like he's swimming out of my watercolor background right there. Yeah, it's a steely gray, and there's a little hint there. Could be teal, could be turquoise, a little bit of something definitely going on there. There's definitely something going on. And so I'm just going to keep going with our gray color here. And let me see, how am I going to do this now? I'm just going to put it on in one area and blend it down. And when I blend this down, what I'm hoping not to do is to blend it more than halfway. If I get it more than halfway down the side of this beast, something has gone wrong. I don't want it to be that far down. And I want it just to be a nice gentle blend. So let's see if I can blend it out here. And we can start, if we bring this color on around, almost like it's underneath, it should make that look like that neck just folds back on itself. It should. I don't know. I'm going to mix up a little bit more color here. And if we need to, we can make it a little bit more blue. If we need to, we can make it a little bit more gray. Doesn't matter. Let's see, this flipper comes out here. I'm just trying to see what would be on top on this flipper. Something, and what would be underneath. Something like that. I'm going to blend and blend. Now, what I don't know now, because I've blended it with my blended that. Come on, Michael. Brain's got to think. I blended the Payne's Gray with the sepia and with the ultramarine blue. I don't know how much it's going to lighten as it dries. Right, Payne's Gray, notorious for drying much lighter than it is when you put it on the page originally. So I've got to figure that out. I mean, it's not a big deal. We can make sure we get it lighter than it needs to be, and we can always go back. JC says years ago, a friend said to me, contrast is what makes it interesting. So true in painting. It is true in painting. It is true. And, excuse me, JC, you're exactly right. One thing we talked about right off the top of this was I need to think about the background, and I'm going to put a background on it. It's going to be watery. And how do I make the background allow this image to pop off of here? If the top of the Loch Ness Monster is going to be a darker color, I'm going to have a lighter background up here. If it's lighter, if he's lighter underneath here, it's going to have to be darker underneath, and then we'll figure it out from there. But we've got some interest that's gonna come up to us at some point in time. So I'm going to jump around to a couple of spots here because I want to make sure I'm working in an area that is probably dry. And so I'm just going to do a little bit of shading here and there. Now the question is, well, the question should be, I don't know if the question is, if I were watching me do this, one of my questions would be, that maybe that's the best way to say that. One of my questions would be, why are you shading this way, only a little bit at a time? Why not do a larger swath and be done with it? And the answer is, that's just kind of how I see things, right? In general, I think it's a fantastic idea to put color on as much as you can the first go around, and to make sure that you can cover it and blend it to the amount that you want. And then you see me putting in this very small amount of color and blending that out. For me, for the way I see things, it's just a little bit easier to do it in a smaller area and then go a little bit larger and then go back a little bit smaller, right? If I do a large area and put on all the color on Nessie's back, because I've got to come back here and put on more color and bring it down the side further. But if I were to do that right off the top, I would lose. My eye wouldn't tell me where to put the color in what quantity, and I would just end up with a big blob of color. And nobody wants to see just a big blob of color. You want to see interest to that big blob of color. And so I can't do it that way. I can. It's just more difficult to do it that way. It's harder for me to do it that way. Let's just say it that way. Like here, I feel like I can go back right now, and I can darken this up, and I can pull this way down the side. But I've put on this smaller area, and so I can kind of see where I'm going to call it Nessie's shoulder is on this side, and I want to stay away from that a little bit so I can give a little bit of something right there. And I can't do that if I start with a large area. I can't see that. But if I do it like this, I think I can then put color on right around that area and then connect everything else. And I've got something that's pretty nice, and a little area that separates what I'm going to say is the shoulder from the back. Just how I do it. And you know what? I've already got a run right here, and I can see it. The solution to a run: more water everywhere. You can pull it off, or you can add more on everywhere and hope it doesn't get too far. And sometimes you just have to let it sit and figure it out from there. All right, let's see. What do we need to do? We need to do Nessie's head up here. Let's start working on the head. Up here, I think I'm going to go a little bit opposite. I'm going to put some dark on down here. And then I'll blend that back. I want a nice, strong chin. Monsters should probably have strong chins, I think. I don't know. All right, come on, guys. You must have some questions. Let's talk about let's talk about something you guys want to talk about. I'm telling you, if you don't ask questions, you're just gonna have to listen to me talk for a long, long time. Nobody wants that. All right. Leslie is here. Just so zen watching. Good. I hope so. I've watched many years worth of Bob Ross, and I hope whatever zenness or peacefulness he had in doing his shows has, maybe sloughed off on me a little bit. I really like that. I would really like to think that having watched so much of Bob Ross has helped me out in doing this. But that's okay. That's okay. If you don't have questions, you don't have questions. There don't have to be questions. But then, like I said, you're gonna have to listen to whatever I have to talk about, and I might just go on for an hour about my chickens. How important is it in this style to use paint or paper that allows for later lifting? I don't think at all. Very little. Not because lifting is not important, but because I try not to put on so much that I'm going to have to lift a whole lot out later. And I keep moving this down. Let me see if I can do this. Let me move this back towards me a little bit. So I have this in a bit of a more natural area for me to paint in. There you go. I've got that terrible camera right there. I hope that is going to stop me from pulling this slowly down. So Leslie, that is a good question though, right? How important is it to use paper or paint, that allows for later lifting? I'm trying to see, let's do this. I'll let this dry for a second. I've got a painting over here I've been working on, and I'll show you a spot where I did have to lift. Okay? I've got this. Let me get this guy out over here. So I've been working on this guy a little bit, and it's not brilliant yet, but it's going to get there, but it's not bad. So when I was painting him, I totally forgot that around his mouth, around his nose, well, I actually didn't paint his nose, but his nose and his mouth, around this area should all be lifted in paint, right? Or should all be white. It should all be very light. Thankfully, a lot of the color that's on this is yellow ochre. A lot of it is also burnt umber. Those are two colors that are easily liftable, right? They're non-staining paints. They're slightly granulating, but they're definitely non-staining paints. If I had done this with, let's say alizarin crimson, I'm done. Alizarin crimson goes on, it doesn't come off. If I do this with phthalo blue, it goes on, it doesn't come off. Let's just, hold on, let's do a little experiment. It's a great question. Let's do a little experiment. I'm going to take a little bit of my, and it doesn't really matter the paper. The paper has a little bit to do with it, but the paint has probably more to do with it, right? Where paper comes into it will be in, if you continue to scrub, are you going to get any pilling, right? Or is it going to come off underneath? And that might be a thing. You'll get that more with pulp than you will with cotton. So any of the cotton papers don't pill all that much. But the wood pulp papers do. Let's see, alizarin crimson. I need alizarin crimson. That is this one right here. Let's get a little square of alizarin crimson on here. And then we'll do a little square. And this is good because that's going to allow Nessie over here to dry just a little bit. I want a little bit more color. Ooh, that's good. Nice. Let's get a nice strong color so you can see how much or how little it's going to lift. Less expensive cotton papers, especially the Chinese brands, don't lift easily at all. It's like using ink. I don't know if... I'm not convinced that that's true. I've used some. And while some of it does depend upon the gelatin, the sizing that is used, a lot of it depends upon staining paint or not. And if you use paint that has a very natural content to it, right? The ochres, the umbers, gamboge probably, then they'll usually lift a lot better. If you use a quinacridone, which is a man-made paint, I happen to have a quinacridone right here, they typically don't lift nearly as well. They're much more staining. So this is, for me, quinacridone rose. Love this color. It's a fantastic color. As we've found out in previous streams, it's really nice to make skin tones with. Okay, so we've got 3 on here. You can see they're a little damp right now. This one is starting to dry. We'll let them set for just a second, and then we'll see how much we can lift off, or how easily, or how difficult it is. And if you want, I can get a little stiffer brush, and we can see how difficult or easy it is. So let me set this aside and let this dry for just a second. And Jennifer, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking part. Whoops. If you have a question about anything, please throw it out there. I love answering questions. The question can be about me. It can be about my art. It can be about watercolors in general. It can be about paint, pigment, paint or pigment. I guess it can be about both of those. It can be about pigment, paper, brushes, anything you want. And if I'm able or willing to answer, I absolutely will answer. Be careful what you ask. Sometimes I don't always have a whole lot of a filter. You might get a blunt answer and not be expecting it. But usually I say it in a pretty nice way. You're loving Nessie. Thank you. Thank you. I said at the beginning, growing up, Nessie was my favorite. I couldn't wait. What was it? In Search Of? Was it In Search Of? I think it was In Search Of, with Leonard Nimoy and Fran Tarkington and somebody else. In the late 1970s, I think was the first show. I think that was the first show that I saw Loch Ness Monster on, and I was hooked. That was it. I couldn't get enough. What is this thing? What is this thing? I need to know. We have to find this. We need to do it. And then from then on, it was a race to find every article, every newsprint article, every magazine article at the time that might have some news of Nessie, something from Scotland. What has happened? Are you blotting your brush at all when you blend out the color? So yes, I do. I'm very particular about the amount of moisture I have on my brush. And I'll show you what I have set up here in just a second. Yes, the answer is absolutely. And it's one reason why I like these King Art brushes, is because I know that they work very consistently and I can control the amount of water on them. Just let me do one last thing to blend this paint out just a bit. I want to get some dimension on Nessie's head here. I don't know if it's exactly the way it's supposed to be. I don't have a current picture. I just have a drawing of Nessie. So up in the corner, up here, I've got my water. I've actually got 3 water jugs up here. Then I've got this, which is a chamois that you would dry your car with. It's very absorbent. Right now it's very wet. So I'll dip my brush into the water, clean it off, do whatever I need to do, dip it on here, and then additionally, then I've got a paper towel that I'll tap it on to make sure that I get my brush to the dampness that I want it to be at. I'm very particular about that. I don't like having a brush that is too wet. It's difficult to use. It's difficult to move paint around. It's frustrating everywhere. Jennifer says, I'm as old as dirt and remember waiting for the episodes. I remember, I think it was on Monday nights on ABC. I couldn't wait. It was great. I remember my dad would like, because Fran Tarkington was on it at the time. I'm like, I don't know who Fran Tarkington is. Later, I found out, oh, he's a football player, or he was a football player. What do I know? I never heard of him. I did know who Leonard Nimoy was. I still don't know who the woman that was on there is. But yes, I remember. It's not like today where you can sit down and you can watch 15 episodes of anything at a moment. You had to do some serious waiting. You really did. Wow, a double blot, wouldn't have expected that. Yeah, this one gets off a certain amount. And it does a pretty good job, but not all of it. And then the paper towel, I can do exactly what I want to. And if you do this, you'll know you end up with a wetter area and a drier area. And you can really drill in. And then sometime throughout this broadcast, you'll see me probably swap out with another paper towel that I put up there. I've got a whole stack of them over on my side. And then I'm probably a little different than most people. I'll then take this and open it up at the end of the stream and let it sit like this and dry out, and then I can use it the next time too, or I can use it, at least one more time. I like to be able to reuse things when possible. Can't always, but sometimes you can. No fuss, no muss, no drippy brush. There you go. Okay. Leslie says, I have trouble when trying to blend out color in this way, and now I think the issue is insufficient blotting. If you get too much color, not too much color, if you get too much water, it's a nightmare. Everything just kind of runs and runs and runs. I actually will dry my brush quite a bit. I don't want it to be wet. I don't. A wet brush is not very good for anything after your initial wash, in my opinion. I should do this here. I'll set that on there. You'll see how long I let it sit on there. And it's still damp. You've still got plenty of moisture, especially from the paint that's already on the paper, and allows you to just push it. And you should know, if you don't, and this one nobody taught me, it took me a long time to figure out, you can move paint 2 ways, right? There are 2 distinctly different ways you can move paint on the paper. If you're blending, you can blend from the paint out, or you can blend from the dry in, right? Let's do that too. Well, this is fun. Let's do that. So give me a stronger color here. Maroon perylene. That's a good strong color. If I take maroon perylene and I put it down and I want to blend this, and I don't care how long it goes, I can grab that edge and I can pull it. I can keep my brush damp and I can pull it. Right? As long as I keep enough water, the proper amount of water on there, I can continue to pull that out. And it's going to keep going and keep going and keep going. There it goes. It's still going a little bit. And that's pretty much as far as I can pull that. But if I take this maroon perylene, ooh, that's a little strong, but that's okay. If I take this maroon perylene and I want to blend it out but not go too far, I can go that far, and then it looks like it's a little too strong. I can then dry my brush a little bit and push it back up that way. And you can actually push your color back up into it and blend it out. And it'll be a much shorter blend. There you go. You do have to manage it slightly differently, but so you can go two ways when you're pushing color around. And there you go. So that is blended out almost the same that one is. That's 1 inch wide, and that one is, I don't know, 3.5 inches wide. Let's see, Leslie, you reuse your paper towels too. Fantastic. It's just such a good idea, right? Let's see, Leslie, you said, you hadn't thought of using the second method. It comes in really handy if you have a small area, right? You can blend it out a little bit, but then push that paint. Come on. There you go. Push that paint right back up. It helps. It really helps keep things where it needs to be. All right. Now, I'm looking at Nessie here, and Nessie is looking a bit cold to me and not quite gray enough. I'm going to switch a little bit, and I'm going to go to a sepia and gray. All right. I'm going to get some of the blue out of Nessie here. And I'm hoping that you can see that color. I'm hoping that color is less blue than that color. It looks it to me, and maybe we'll even throw in a little neutral tint in here. It looks it to me as I'm looking at it in the studio. I don't know how well this comes across on camera. But Nessie's looking a little blue, and Nessie's already going to be blue when we put on some of the water. It's going to pull some of that blue right on around. So I'm just going to put on another little layer, and it doesn't have to be the whole way. It doesn't have to be everything. It's just going to help to blend that color down. Yeah, a little darker gray. I think that's a little better. Let me get some more of this color, and I'm just going to keep, and again, I work in a little smaller area. I can go a little bit larger, but I prefer to work in a little smaller area and then add on to it and add on to it. As long as I keep that initial wet edge, you can do a lot. You can just keep right on rolling with it. And now I've got a drip on here that I didn't want. Somehow I got a drip. Just pull it off. Dab my brush off. And Nessie's looking much darker now. Okay, cool. I like that. I like that a lot better. You know what? I think Nessie has been on vacation in the Caribbean and has picked up a little bit of a tan here, and I think that's going to help us out. I think, and I should say this. So I said I wanted some light colors underneath and some darker colors on top. And then, of course, right, then I painted some dark colors back here. And I had to, because we needed a way to make this flipper come off the page. Just shoo, right off the page. The way you do that is you leave some light on the flipper and put some dark behind it. Well, it's also nice if you have a lot of your dark areas connected together. So I want to make sure that I've got this. In fact, I should pull a little bit more off here. I want to have this shoulder area a little bit lighter and then a little bit darker underneath, to look like there's maybe a little bulge here or something, and then dark underneath but light, and it just pops off, and then this is all connected in through here. Little things, connect as much together as you can as you're painting. It doesn't seem like it would make that big of a deal, but in the finished picture, it's going to really make it seem much more professional, much more pronounced, much more like it's a real thing. Now, I just said you need to connect everything, and then I've got this area that I'm painting here, which kind of stands alone on its own, and I can't really connect it to anything. When you have those, you have those. You can't always connect everything, but you should strive to, or I believe you should strive to connect them whenever possible. All right, so I'm just going to continue to work around this and darken up a few more areas here. This is dry up there. That's not dry. This is probably dry enough. I can add a little bit more color here. And we're almost to the point where we can start to think about the background color, and we can put on a really gentle color if we want to, knowing that we might have to go over it again, and that's fine. Ooh, I got a little out of control here. That probably needs to be a consistent width all the way down. All right, I'm going to blend some of this. Now, if we're talking about making sure that we have a difference in color, some contrast, these areas are difficult, small areas like this, because I've got to leave just a little sliver of color, of white color, highlight color here, so that I can put a little darker down here, and it's going to help to push this whole flipper again out a little bit further. And I think I've got quite enough paint on here. I could have painted all the flippers with the amount of color I've got on here. I really do think that. And I'll be honest, I'm struggling just a bit with this paper. The paper's not I don't know how many months I've been using only cotton paper, and going back to this part cotton paper, I seem to not be controlling my water quite as nicely as maybe I should be, but that's okay. It's okay. We're gonna make it work. Everything's gonna be fine. Don't fear. This is where somebody should start playing Blue Oyster Cult and Don't Fear the Reaper. No, but it's fine. People always tell me, "Aren't you worried about making a mistake? Watercolors are so unforgiving, and you can't do anything with it." And I'm like, it's just, to me, it's just watercolors. You can do pretty much anything you want to with it. What is the paper? This paper is Fabriano Studio paper. Here. Ooh. Fabriano studio paper. 25% cotton. Comes in a nice block. I'll probably use 2/3 of it. It's not bad paper. It is, it is studio paper. It's not professional paper. Comes glued on the one side. It's nice paper. It's sufficient, I would say. I don't think it's fantastic paper, but if I had to choose one that is a wood pulp paper, maybe not full wood pulp paper, I would choose it. It's not bad paper. Don't fear the paper is now running through my head in the tune of Don't Fear the Reaper. Don't fear the paper. Come on, baby. Sorry about that. I can't sing too much. They're going to charge me royalties. No, I don't have any idea. Okay, cool. So while I'm going to let this dry for just a second, I'm going to pull our test sheet back out here, and you can see this one didn't quite blend out quite. There's a bit of a hard edge on that. I can just pull that off with working it a little bit. And this one is, of course, nice and smooth all the way out, but that's not what we're looking for. I'm going to change to a little different brush. We want to see if we can lift any of these colors. These are mostly dry, but let's see what we can do. So I'm gonna dip this in some water. I'm gonna make one run over top of all of these, and then I'll do a second one, and I'll try to rub it a little bit, and then we'll just try to lift it, and we'll see if just putting water on it allows you to lift it, or if putting water and rubbing it helps. So the first one is yellow ochre. Let me just put a line here. The second one, quinacridone rose and alizarin crimson. The last one is phthalo blue. And then let's come back and do a little scrub back here. And I'll bet you I can get quite a bit of this yellow ochre off of here. I can get most of that yellow ochre off of there, and that's pretty easy. All right, the alizarin crimson can probably get some off of there, but it's going to stain everything along the way. Oh, wow, actually more of it came off than I thought was going to come off. But it's never going to go back to white. And I better try to sop these other ones up before I lose that bead of water. Okay, quinacridone rose. Can I scrub and get that? I can get it, but it's always going to be pink. Actually, it's going better than I thought it was going to go. And my beloved, one of my favorite colors on here, phthalo blue. Which we can get off of there, but everything is gonna, you can see it's, okay, cool. So let's take a look. What am I gonna point with? I'm gonna point with this. Just putting a bead of water on and trying to pull things off. These two I was not expecting. The phthalo blue I thought would be kind of like that. Not much color coming off. These two actually got more than I thought we would. And these were pretty full bleeds of color, right? The yellow ochre is a non-staining color, so we can get almost all of that color off. I'll bet if I tried, I could get a little bit more color off of there. And what you don't see down here and what you don't see up here is some additional staining where the paint got washed off as I was going up and down. The alizarin crimson, a little bit of staining. Same thing with the quinacridone rose, a little bit of staining. And that's never going back to white. It's just not. Same with our blue over here, never going back to blue, and a little bit of staining up here. These are staining colors, and they're not impossible to lift, but they are difficult to lift. JC, I have a nice scrubber brush that I use. I have to be careful with the paper, though. That's what I was going to say. I think I've got a hog's hair brush I used to do some work with. Hold on one second. Where? This is fascinating. Streaming, not even on stream, not even on scene. I can't find it. Okay, I can't find it. Sorry, it's a little yellow handled brush about yay long, 6 or 8 inches long. I don't see it, and I used to use it to scrub with, but if I got much more than this is Arch's, this is the back of a scrap piece of paper. This is Arch's watercolor paper, 140 pound. And you could scrub on this for a while and you'd be fine with it. But if I scrubbed on, do I have anything that's more scrubbable? What do I have that's not? I must have something up here we could scrub off. Here we go. This has only been on here for $12 years, would be my guess. Something like that. Let's see if we can scrub some of this. I have no idea what any of these colors are. I don't have any idea where these colors came from. And this is not the stiffest brush in the world. Let's see if we can get a little bit of color off of here. Let's see. Oh, we can get some off of there. And this is, I should say, I'm using this not to see if we can get some color off, but this is Strathmore 400 series watercolor paper. And immediately, look what happened. That color, or that water, came right on through. It's going to start to, in fact, it's already started pilling up. I don't know if you can see it, but you can feel it. I don't know, but right where I put that water, it totally came through on the other side. Didn't happen at all on this one. Oops. If I try to scrub here, it's starting to pill up already, and look, it's come right on through. So anyway, I used to use a lot more of that Strathmore paper. I don't use it so much anymore. I moved on to, if I use it, and I don't have a problem using the wood pulp paper, but I probably wouldn't be using the Strathmore paper at this point. Okay, so we need to do a couple of things here. One of the things is, now that we just did some lifting over there, I'm going to see if I can just gently lift a little bit of color around Nessie's eye here. I don't hate it. I just want to lighten it just ever so slightly, and it didn't work, and we're gonna deal with it. We won't sweat it. But we're gonna keep right on rolling with Nessie here. And Nessie's got this jawline I kind of want to put in here. Something like that. I don't know if that's exactly what Nessie's jawline looks like, but it'll be fine. Let's see. I've got a whole fin down. You guys let me go. I got a whole fin down here that I haven't done a whole lot with. And are there any? I feel like I hijacked the whole stream by not painting Nessie, but let's sometimes to me, sometimes that's the fun stuff to do. Does anybody else have any questions? Any other side demonstrations we can do? Because I really do enjoy doing these side demonstrations. They are really what make doing these live streams fun. I don't know what you guys are going to ask. You guys might not know what you're going to ask right off the top. And somewhere in between, when we all get together, we're going to have a good time answering a few questions. It makes it fun. Good paper is spendy. I do smaller paintings to offset cost. Can do a lot of good practice on a smaller scale, right? Cutting down whole sheets helps too. So, yes, you're right. Of course you're right, right? Paper is pricey. At one point in time, I bought a roll of, I want to say it was bee paper. It must have been bee. I'm sure it was bee paper. Well, I've got 2 rolls of Bauhong paper right behind me as we speak. But at one point in time, I bought a roll of, like I said, bee paper. I'm sure it was bee paper. And I took it into my work, and at my work we had a large paper cutter. And I was like, I'm going to outsmart the system, and I'm going to use the paper cutter, and I'm going to cut this into all these little tiny pieces, and then I will have paid in essence in bulk for this paper and end up with a cool bit of, sheets, whatever size I want. I quickly found out that, and if you do it, you'll do it differently, I am certain, but I quickly find out my math wasn't as good as I thought it was because all of my sheets came out in weird sizes. I went, first cut I make this size. I don't even know what the size is. First cut I make it this size. Second cut I make it that size. Third cut I make it this size. And I've got some pagers that are 7 by 13, and I'm like, what do I do with a 7 by 13 sheet of paper? I don't understand what I'm doing here. and then, as now, with the rolls of paper that I have now, you get the roll, you unroll it, you cut it, and then you go to set it somewhere, and you've got this rolled up piece of paper, and you've got to figure out a way to unroll it. I take I don't have it next to me, but a piece of gator board, spray it with water, put the paper on it, spray the paper with water, put another piece of gator board on it, and let it sit for a couple of days. It'll dry nice and flat. I go from there. But it's an interesting adventure trying to find the right paper for sure. All right, let's see. I think Nessie needs to have a little color in here, a little something in his mouth. What color am I using here? Some kind of red. This is Pyrol red. This is my fire engine red. And then I'll put a little quinacridone in here as we move to the outside. And don't worry, we're gonna redo some of his lips here a little bit. I don't know that he would necessarily have part of his mouth that you'd see. Maybe he's been in a fight or something. But there's the inside of his mouth. We can actually put even maybe a little bit of this alizarin crimson back here. That's going to hopefully add a little color to Nessie there. Let's pull that out just a bit. Come on. There. Give me a little bit more of that. There we go. And I don't know what color eyes. Well, I'm off. Thanks for the nice chat. Okay, Leslie, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. Please stop by in the future. It's great having you here. If you have the opportunity, if you see we're painting something interesting, please stop by, say hi. It's great to have you in chat. Thank you for stopping by. And like I said, hopefully, we'll see you here again. If you come, bring a question. Bring a friend. I should say. Bring a friend. This is an odd night. Kenya is here. And Sudike is here, but there are a few normals that haven't made it in yet. Makes it a little strange, but that's okay. I'm sure they're doing something exciting. I'm trying just to even out some colors here. And as I'm looking at Nessie, actually, I'm not dissatisfied with what we've got going on here. Might want to put some lines or some ripples in the skin, something to make it a little bit more exciting. And I'll tell you what I do want to do is I want to purple up his mouth a little bit. That red is too red. The mouth gives him a sinister look. Can't have sinister Nessie. Nessie's nice. Official ambassador to Scotland, right? Couldn't have Nessie. Nessie wouldn't hurt a fly, I don't think. I hope not. I don't know. Nessie always seemed like a friendly monster. There you go. I just want to darken that up a little bit. I think that looks better. A little darker in there. There we go. And now, we're getting on towards some of it. I got a tide line there. I just am going to brush out a little bit. So I want to do something else with his mouth here, with Nessie's mouth. But what I want to do is start to really come down and put on some finer details on here. He just had a cherry. I see. Orange eyes. Okay. Orange eyes. All right. I like orange eyes. I think we can do that. I'm trying to think, what do I want to do here to add a few details? Well, I'll tell you a couple of things I want to do is one, I want to strengthen his lines here. Really strengthen some of these. Oh, don't go. Okay. And again, trying to keep the, in air quotes, trying to keep the right amount of pressure and moisture on this brush as I use it to get that to blend out just so. And I think there should be, I like doing this, put a little dark around the eye a bit and blend that out. I think it helps to let that eye stand out a bit. I do that a lot. I do it a lot, especially with the birds that I paint. Now, our colors here are a little darker to start with, but I think we can get away with it. And underneath here, I'm just going to turn this all the way around. Underneath here, we need to have a dark line. Oh, something is under my... Oh, look. I have my white paint underneath my paper towel there, and I couldn't touch it right. Something felt weird. Okay, I want a nice strong jaw there. And since I've got this color out, I think I need to add a little bit of this color onto the top here, which is still pretty blue. This is like a glaze, just a simple glaze to unblue that a little bit. Unblue it. Yes, that's a technical term, to unblue that a little bit. And I think if I look at this, it's got some nice dimension to it. Right? I'm a little reluctant to do too much with it because I think what we have is a good body, right? We know that this is underneath. You can see where it curls around. This goes all the way around that side. The flippers, all the flippers stand out. They look like, well, at least they look like I want them to look. Which is a start, which admittedly doesn't always happen. Usually it does. Let's give Nessie a little line under here. Just come on, I might. And I have to report that the other cryptids that we painted, right? And this is kind of an important thing, are wanted. They are wanted. Somebody approached me today and said, hey, if you're not doing anything with those, or if you haven't found a home for those previously, I would be interested in acquiring those. So I'm always happy when my artwork can go to somebody who is going to appreciate it. And so I'm happy to report that the Chupacabra and or the Mothman have found a home. And what's better than that is I think it's found a home with somebody that I know so that I can visit it whenever I want to. That's always a bonus. Okay. I'm holding off on the orange eye. I want to do that last because I don't think there's going to be too much to it. And when I paint around that eye, like that, it's not much, right? Maybe it's got a little eyeliner on or something. That might be a little too dark. But I like to make little marks that will, as I said before, help to make that eye pop a little bit. It's a little harder because we're using darker colors, but we can still do it. All right. Now we have to decide, what are we going to do for our water? And the answer is, still hoping you do the Texas skunk ape. Jennifer, I don't know if I'm going to do the Texas skunk ape per se, but I think the Texas skunk ape and Bigfoot are cousins, and I'm hoping to end the month doing Bigfoot. So, not specifically the Texas skunk ape, but we're getting close. I think what I want to do, and actually before I do this, I'm going to do one thing before I do this. This is kind of our color that we're working with here. So I'm going to darken that up a little bit. And then, whoops, I was thinking of making the water at least right next to Nessie a turquoisey color, and then darkening it as we came out away from his body. And I just want to look to see if that combination is going to work at all. And I think we can go with that. I think we can do it. So I'm going to mix up a little bit of turquoise. And of course, my palette is on an angle. So if I mix up too much, it runs all the way down and mixes with my black. So I'm going to try to do this very quickly, which is why I grabbed such a giant brush. And I think that is not going to be quite dark enough for my taste. I think we need something more like that. I think that's a better turquoise. Too light is too light. And if we do this quickly enough, as we get out to the outside of the frame, we can then start to darken this up even more. But I think with something like this, we definitely need to have Nessie in a situation. We need Nessie to be in water of some sort, some kind, somewhere. All right? Nessie can't just be, like I like to paint, with an image not... I like to do images floating in space, and Nessie can't be like that. If Nessie is going to be like swimming through some deep, dark water here. So I think if we put some color on, come on, that's not nearly dark enough out to the side. We darken it up. Yeah, I'm trying to pay attention to the water values on the side. Oh, look at it. As soon as I made that much darker, look at that fin really popped. We might have to darken part of that fin. We might have made that too dark. All right, come on. Now my tip for doing this, and it's not really that big of a tip, is find your shortest point from your object to the edge of your painting. Right? Find that shortest point, which for me is over here, and make that your starting point. Right? Because if that dries a little bit, it's okay. It doesn't matter so much if that dries up a little bit, because you can come back and go over that, and if it looks a little wonky, it's just a little bit of an area. It's not a huge area. Having said that, let's see if we can prevent that from happening. And I think we can. Some more pure turquoise up here. Again, we might have to make it a little bit lighter on the top and a little bit darker on the bottom. And Nessie is standing out nicely. Look at that. Good job, Nessie. I love it when a plan comes together. And of course, this is water, so it doesn't have to be perfect. Now, the thing about this is Nessie is going to look like he's just kind of there and the water is behind him. And that's kind of okay. If you were doing this, on a Saturday afternoon and you wanted to spend the extra time with it, you could always do this and then come back over with a turquoise glaze over top. And that glaze would then push, Nessie back into the water that little bit. But for this example, I think we can probably get away with not doing that. Let's see. I've got some dark in the corner. I'm going to even that out with a little bit of darkness up here. I don't want this dark to travel down quite as far, but I do want it to pull into that page a little bit. Oh, Nessie, you are looking good. You are. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. trying to be exceedingly careful with my brushwork until I, as I'm close around Nessie here, we can pull some of this color down a little bit and let it kind of get happy in there. That's, you know what? I actually like it. I like it. I shouldn't say it like that. I actually like it. No, I think it's turned out great. Let's get a little dark up here. So Nessie is silhouetted in some light here, right? Oh, look it. Okay. Got a few things to do yet. My favorite so far, he's great. Thank you. How would you mix the paint for a glaze? Great question. The same way. The answer is, unfortunately, the same way. A glaze is just a very light layer over top. So take a large brush, right? And the key with a glaze is it goes on very light and it goes on very quickly. So if I want to glaze over, let's glaze over. Come on, go underneath. I want to glaze over top of this. Nice and soupy wet. Good color. Glaze right over top. Done. Don't go back over it, or go back over it as little as possible. Because the more you go back over it, the more you activate the paint underneath. And the more you activate the paint underneath, the more it's going to lift and run. So there's your glaze right over top, just like that. Now, this one is, a little, it's rough. So you're seeing it do some weird things. So interesting. I just glazed over the top of this one, and actually, let me do it this way. Just glazed over the top of the quinacridone, one layer over top of it, really. And look, that quinacridone kind of bled out just a little bit, even by doing that. But we got almost none of that from up here in the yellow ochre. But that's your glaze right over top. Your glaze typically is going to be a nice thin layer going over, but done wet and quickly. Hey, Mr. Federal is here. Let me pull this down, Mr. Federal, and you can see Nessie here. Got a couple of things to do yet. Nessie's looking great. Kenya says an orange eye, so let's start with an orange eye for Nessie. Let's see, I'm going to take some of this gamboge and, well, I'm going to have to figure this out. That's too red of an orange. Kenya, what do you think? A redder orange or a how red should we do this orange? That's the question. Ooh, that's a nice orange. Oh, I like this one. Let's go with this one. So this is a cold yellow and a warm red, right? Hansa yellow or Azo yellow. They're in essence the same thing. And a little bit of the pyrrole red. And if I can get this in there exactly how I want, we can get a nice orange eye on Nessie. I think I missed just a tiny spot there. Okay, I'm going to leave it like that. But we're not done because Nessie, you're looking fantastic. But we do need to put on a few teeth, right? For some reason, Mr. Federal, I think Nessie would look great with a saddle. No way. You can't domesticate the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster needs to live free in the wilderness, the Highlands of Scotland. Well, these teeth were going to be better than this. Get a few teeth on here. I thought they were going to go on better. We can do this. Come on, Michael, we can do this. There's a tooth. There's a tooth. There's a tooth. Everybody gets a tooth. Look, there's a tooth. You got this, Nessie. Here's a tooth for you. There's a tooth. There's a tooth. Some nice big teeth here. Ha ha! There we go. Look now. Now Nessie just went from cute and adorable to menacing and mean. Ish. I'm hoping that our teeth are going to be okay. I did draw one of them just a little bit longer than I wanted. I will admit. So if I can, there we go. If I can just get a little bit of that off, we're good. But knowing how this white gouache works, it oftentimes dries a bit lighter than I wanted it to, and I really want to wait until I'm done so I can put a dot right on Nessie's eye and give it some light. But while we're waiting for that, I'm going to do a little bit of an evaluation, and I'm going to start with the background. And the background, I think, actually looks pretty nice. So when I was learning how to paint and how to frame things, I learned there are two different ways you frame things. You make the center of interest darker, or you make it like silhouetted, right? So in a landscape, right, because traditional watercolor does a lot of landscapes, well, you kind of silhouette your subject with the sky in the background, right? You do a house on a prairie or something. The house sits up this way, and the sky is darker at the top, and it comes down, and that allows you to really silhouette that farmhouse. The other way is you do it exact opposite, which is you make the horizon a lot darker and let it lighten up as you go, and then make your subject a lot lighter. This was kind of an example of that. We're making our subject really dark here, and everything else behind it really light, right? So I have some darker colors out here because it's in the water, it's in the deep water, and we're kind of looking up at Nessie like this. You can just see this little patch of light here. It really does a good job to illuminate Nessie, and so we can really see him swimming around like that. Okay, so other things that I really like, right? I love the shape of the body back here, the coloring, that white line. I know it's not much, it's just enough. It helps give some proportion to the rest of the body down here. If I were to keep going, I probably would make this down here a little darker all the way along, but I'm okay with it the way it is. I like this fin here, and that line makes it look like maybe there's some muscle definition underneath there, something. This one looks great coming all the way out here, really dark. I like the corner here, and I like how this comes down and around. It really makes this feel, this light underneath here comes and makes this big curve, and that little bit where that dark comes down really helps that out. Now, I do wish I'd have gotten a little bit more on the head here, but I don't think it detracts. It's got light, it's got dark, it's got dark, it's got dark, it's got light. I'm going to put a little dot on his eye. There's enough there that it has some interest. It's not perfect, but it definitely has some interest. And that's what I'm looking for more than anything. Let's make it interesting. It doesn't have to be right. It just has to be interesting. And I think if we all would think that a little bit more with our watercolor paintings, we would do a lot better. Think of that a little bit more, we'd all do a lot better. Because so much of what the viewer is going to see is made up in their own mind anyways, right? We can tell them what they should see, but they're going to see it their own way anyways. Oh man, I've got whitewash all over me now. So the fact that this just looks interesting is kind of enough for me. And, ooh, holy cow. I have white paint all over my hand. It's all over my wrist. It's all over a couple of brushes over here. I don't know what has happened. Let's see. I put a little bit of color down here. Not much. You can see that. And all of a sudden, it makes that fin look like it's got a little bend in it. Like it's got a little twist or something in there. I'm going to sign it right there. Anyways, all kidding aside, anything aside, honestly, when I saw this, I went, that's going to be easy. And then I looked at it and I went, I don't know how I'm going to do this whole body. And I don't know how I'm going to do the background because I don't like to do backgrounds a whole lot. And now having done this, I think it turned out pretty well. I like it. I hope you guys like it. Sudica says it looks great. Looks like a boat passed by and disturbed his hunt. There you go. Should have put like a couple of fish or something out here. He's gonna look. Big Nessie's gonna bite little Nessie up there. Oh, here I could do this. There. Nessie's chasing Dory. Come on, Dory, get away. Where are you at, Dory? There you go. Okay, and with that, I'm going to call this one done. I hope you guys had a good time being here. I had a great time with you all. Whoop, come on, come back into focus. Oh, something fell on it. I hope you have a great rest of your evening. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I hope you're able to join me back here again next week when we do this all over again. I'm thinking next week will be the Jersey Devil will be my guess, and then followed by Bigfoot the following week. Until then, we'll figure it out on Monday. I'll put it into Discord for anybody who is up for that. I'll put it in Discord. Until then, have a great time. Have a great, I already say this, have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your week. And that's all. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.